Bubba Scrubba, Fantasy Sports Advice and Analysis, Volume 3, Episode 8. Marker. Morning, everybody. We're going to conclude our fantasy football divisional previews here. We're going to end with the AFC West. Just as a reminder, I've been watching the NFL continuously since 1984. I've been participating in fantasy sports leagues since 2002. And I've been the commissioner of my own league, Fantasy Football League, since 2008. In that league, we run a PPR, point per reception scoring, and that's going to inform some of my analysis. But without further ado, let's get into it. First team on our list is the Kansas City Chiefs. This has been an unusual offseason for KC, considering that Pat Mahomes injured his leg and didn't play for the last 3 or 4 games last year in an attempt to, I think, try to keep him upright and take a little bit of pressure off of him. They went out and hit the free agent market and signed Kenneth Walker from Seattle. And this is probably the best running back that they've had on the roster in quite some time. No telling yet how that's going to affect the offense overall. However, in fantasy circles, he's going off for a second round pick. I think it's fair to assume that he is going to be the lead dog. However, that being said, Andy Reid has never been a guy who has ever just given the ball to one guy. And so they have a few other guys waiting in the wings, including this Brashard Smith, including this, they have a rookie whose name is escaping me now. That being said, I think it's fair to say that Ken Walker will probably get the lion's share of the goal line work, but it's tough to say, oh, this guy's going to get 300 carries, 1,400 yards, and 10 touchdowns. I really don't see it happening. I think they're going to split up the work. He's never been known as a third down back or receiving back, so I think it's pretty evident that he's going to be on the field first, second down. He's not going to be on the field in third down. He's going to be getting the reps inside the 5-yard line, and really it's a matter of, is this guy going to be able to stay healthy? Last year he did. No telling. Personally, for me, I'm avoiding this guy. I don't really want anything to do with the Kansas City running game. If I wanted to get somebody, I'd draft, one of the backups, one of the rookie. The rookie's name is Emmett Johnson. It just came to me. I'd rather draft this Emmett Johnson or pick him up as a free agent because you can get him for virtually free. The wide receiver group is headlined by Rashee Rice. Now, Rashee Rice is a guy who has tons of off-field problems. He had the Lamborghini car chase and the huge accident and all that, and he did jail time for that. And then he did jail time this last offseason for, I believe it was domestic abuse or domestic assault. So this guy obviously cannot stay out of trouble. Meanwhile, he also had knee surgery this last offseason and was rehabbing in his jail cell. By all accounts, he is healthy in training camp right now, and we all know that Pat Mahomes likes to throw him the ball a lot. He's not necessarily a deep threat, lid lifter. He's not going to go and blow the top off of a defense. He's just going to make his living underneath, catch after catch after catch. And in the red zone, they definitely look for him. Now, this kind of his evaluation, I think he's going off of the board anywhere fourth, fifth, sixth round or something like that. I don't necessarily have a problem drafting Rashee Rice. I just, with all of his baggage, we don't know how the Kansas City offense is going to be kind of reformed this year, especially with, Ken Walker now. Are they going to run the ball more? Are they going to, we don't really know. It's a little bit of a question mark, but of all the wide receivers, he is the safest pick. Running across from him is Xavier Worthy, who was a rookie a couple years ago out of Texas. I think this guy ran like a 4.2 40. He was a burner. And in year one, he looked like he had the potential to be a very special player. I drafted him last year and then watched as Travis Kelce literally took his arm off, dislocated his shoulder. The first snap of the first game of the year, and the guy never recovered. I mean, I don't know if he was injured. I just don't know if his skill set fits into this offense or what the deal is. But, already he's injured in training camp. I'm putting a do not draft grade on this guy. If he blows up, then, I'll eat crow on that. But, I was burned last year. I just don't see a viable path for him either to stay healthy or for him to carve out some kind of meaningful role in this offense. Now, we mentioned Pat Mahomes, obviously all-world quarterback. Mahomes is the poster child at this point in his career as being an elite real-life player, but a middling fantasy player. Now, I drafted him when he was a rookie or his second year. Whatever year he took off, I had him as my backup quarterback. I think we had Carson Wentz that year. Carson Wentz got hurt, and then we went to Mahomes, and we didn't look back. He will never be a player that will ever throw for 40 plus touchdowns ever again. But that being said, that's not an indictment on his real life value. Obviously, this is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. But for fantasy purposes, this guy is more of a mid-range QB1. I mean, a lot of people I know will go in, draft him, and say, well, I got that quarterback situation handled. But I just don't see the upside there, for him right now. One, coming off of a torn ACL and LCL. By all accounts, he's going to be ready for week 1. But one of the things that was special about him was his ability to kind of tuck the ball and run with it a little bit. How much is that going to be compromised? How much is that going to be compromised by having Ken Walker to hand the ball off to, which in real life is good news for him? His arm has only gotten worse over the years. I mean, his weapons are middling. And I just, if you want to draft this guy as a low end QB1, I have no problems with that because he is kind of a set it and forget. But I mean, we're firmly in the days of, 200 yards passing, maybe 1 to 2 touchdowns in a game. It's not enough to get it done. We need somebody that can throw the ball 50 times a game and get you 3+ scores. He is not the guy. Lastly, we have Travis Tay Kelsey, at 36 or whatever it is, coming off of this huge wedding and, his distraction, his off the field distractions with his wife, with his brother, and the podcast, with the commercials. I'm not saying that this guy isn't going to be ready to play. He absolutely will be. He will get some stats. He is no longer an elite tight end 1. He's very much a low-end tight end 1 and more of a guy that if you're ignoring the position and you wanted an, all name, no game kind of guy, then Travis Kelsey is your guy. He will pop off for a few touchdowns here and there, but he is not by no means a reliable fantasy starter anymore. Buyer beware. Second team on our list is the Denver Broncos. Denver is, I feel like, a team of, they're the sum of parts as opposed to, a collection of superstar talent. They do have an outstanding head coach in Sean Payton who knows how to get the most out of an offensive position group. The running game is highlighted by J.K. Dobbins, who was having a pretty good season last year until he got injured, but that's been the bane of this guy's career, or the story, I should say. Is just injury after injury after injury. Now, again, he's healthy, or I think he just got nicked up in practice or something like that. I don't think necessarily he's a guy that you're looking to draft or highlighting to draft. Denver does love to run the ball, but maybe if you're looking for an RB3 or an RB4 and you like the opportunity, like the offense that he's in, but there's nothing sexy here, and the potential for injury is very high. More interesting is this RJ Harvey, who I don't want to say took off last year. I think that was one of the big reasons why Dobbins was actually re-signed, is because Harvey didn't really cut the mustard as far as the coaching staff is concerned. For fantasy purposes, he was fairly serviceable. Personally, if I wanted to buy into the Denver running game, I'd be more likely to buy into this RJ Harvey because 1, he's younger, 2, he doesn't have the checkered injury past, 3, he's just a little bit quicker, shiftier, got more wiggle, got more, burst. I don't know, maybe in year 3, we'll see a jump on this guy. I mean, and I think it's fair to project that there's going to be a bit of a timeshare there, but I mean, you're not drafting this guy before round 8. Something like that, and he's easily an RB, let's say 4, RB5. Okay. Wide receiver position group has gotten a little better. They went out and traded for Jalen Waddle, formerly of the Miami Dolphins. Now Waddle, is a fairly good receiver, is steady, has good hands, doesn't do anything exceptionally well. But again, Injuries. This guy always seems to be injured. In this offense, he's going to be sharing the ball with Cortland Sutton a lot. And then they also have this Pat Bryant. They also have Marvin Mims. They have Troy Franklin. They have a lot of guys. And so the third wide receiver position is a little unsettled. But your number one and number two are Waddle and Sutton, interchange them, whatever. Um, Personally, I think Waddle's getting overdrafted. I mean, you're seeing this guy come off of the board in round like 5 or something like that. I think I'd rather have Sutton at that price tag, but he's also coming off the board about the same time, round 6, maybe something like that. If you could get either of these guys later than round 6, then I'd say absolutely pull the trigger. But to project, I think they kind of cap each other's upside, to be honest with you. And so I don't think you're going to see either of these guys eclipse 80 catches. I think 1,000 yards is within reach. And let's say 4 to 6 touchdowns. I don't think you're going to see either of these guys like go off for a 10-plus touchdown season. So firmly in the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, maybe. I'd like to have, personally, I'd rather have 3 bona fide guys. And then if I had Cortland Sutton, I'd be happy. Throwing the ball to them is Bo Nix, whose season ended prematurely last year. If you remember, he sustained, a pretty bad ankle fracture in the playoff game and then wasn't able to play in the AFC Championship. Probably cost Denver a trip to the Super Bowl last year. By all accounts, he's fully healthy. He was a little bit older as a rookie, but more seasoned when he came into the league. I think he's in year 3 now, but he's a guy who's about 27 now or something like that. Anyway, I like his game. He does have a little bit of running ability. He's a decent passer. He doesn't have a huge arm, so he has to compensate with, processing and other intangibles. He is a bona fide QB1. He's more of a lower end QB1. I would actually put him in with the Mahomes, like about in the same tier. I don't know, maybe Nix has a little bit of a slight bump over Mahomes just because he's a little bit younger. Denver's a little bit hungrier, and I think they might have just some better overall weapons at wide receiver. Now, to cap it off, we'll talk about the tight end Evan Engram. This guy's on a do not draft list. In theory, in the Sean Payton offense, this guy should be getting, he should be a top tight end, but it was invisible last year, and I don't think there's anything, to indicate that he's going to have any kind of effect on the team this year. Next team on the list is the Las Vegas Raiders. I have to, just basically have a mea culpa here. I just do not like the Raiders. I don't like their franchise. I never have. I don't like drafting Raiders. I don't like playing Raiders. That being said, they do have some interesting fantasy players, headlined by Ashton Genty, who as a rookie last year was expected to do a lot more than what he ended up doing. At the end of the season, he kind of came on, especially more as a receiver. I fully expect with a new quarterback, a new coach, a whole new ball game, and, basically a franchise reset, so to speak, that this guy could potentially live up to his lofty draft standard. You're going to look at burning a late first round pick. Let's say in a 12-team league, you're looking at pick 10, 11, or 12 potentially for him, or early second round. As your running back 1, this is where I struggle. Because if I was sitting at pick, let's say 12, and this guy was sitting there, and I could have my pick of Chase Brown, Derrick Henry, that kind of tier, Devon Achane. If I could pick between those guys, or I had to pick Genty, I probably would go with the best wide receiver I could get. Like, let's say if I had to pick between Genty and Justin Jefferson, I would pick Justin Jefferson and then I'll go Derrick Henry, and that would be my 1-2 punch versus picking Genty and then whatever, I got at the end of the second round as far as a wide receiver was concerned. Or Genty and Henry, let's say, or something like that. But It's a tough pick. I know there are a lot of people that are high on him. He does have high catch potential. He is going to get everything he can eat in this offense. So you're looking at 300 plus carries. If he's able to turn it on this year, if everything clicks for the Raiders this year, I think he could easily 300 carries, 1,400 yards, let's say 8 touchdowns. And when you factor in the receiving 50 plus catches, you're probably looking at 10 plus touchdowns, 12 touchdowns potentially as a runner and receiver. So it's tough for me to put a real hard. I don't have a conviction on this guy yet. Now watch, this will be the year he goes off, and everybody will be like, "Why didn't you draft Genty?" I mean, that's just the way it goes in fantasy football. The other bona fide super stud in this offense is Brock Bowers. Now, this is a guy I owned last year. I used my second round pick on him because I didn't really like a lot of the running backs that were there when I was picking. And would have been a great pick if the guy hadn't gotten hurt in week 1 or week 2, and that basically kind of slowed him down pretty much the whole season. This year, he's fully healthy by all measures, but we all know in the NFL, you're just one bad hit away from, getting nicked up or whatever. So, but I feel like this guy is a strong middle to end second round pick. He's probably, it's tight end 1, tight end 2, basically, one or the other. I mean, he's either the top guy or the second guy. So you're going to get one of the most elite players. And the thing about the Raiders, and we'll talk about this in a second, is that their wide receiver group is nothing to write home about. So he's the de facto number 1 wide receiver, and he blocks like a tight end, he runs like a wide receiver, he catches like a wide receiver. I mean, this guy is a specimen. If you're at the end of the second round and you don't like anything there, if you don't like the running backs, if you don't like the wide receivers, and it's too early to pick a quarterback, you don't want to pull the trigger on Josh Allen, pick Brock Bowers. I will say that. And I don't think that you'll regret that. And especially considering that you'll be getting a little bit of arbitrage at the tight end group there because you'll have one of the top options. Now, the wide receiver group, this is like a bunch of no-names, man, like Trey Tucker and Jalen Naylor. I mean, these guys have potential, but it's just, there's no way to know which one of these guys is going to stand out, and is Bowers truly going to get, the lion's share of targets and looks? Personally, I'm just going to stay away from this group altogether. I would not draft either of these guys. Maybe if, after the first week or second week, there's a consistent performer out of the group, then yeah, you're going to look and you're going to maybe pick somebody up or use a waiver claim on them. But really nothing else to say in that regard, I feel like, about the wide receiver group for the Raiders. With a new offense, with Genty, with Bowers, this could be a run first, and Bowers gets everything he can eat, and there's nothing really left over for the wide receivers. Which brings us to the quarterback position. So as of right now, Kirk Cousins is the starter. Not to say that Kirk Cousins, he's probably pretty good news for any of these guys because, he is just a traditional, experienced, seasoned drop back passer. I mean, obviously he's a little old. I think, what is he, 37 or 38? So, and, has had some injuries in recent seasons. So, he's just not the player he was. But, that being said, waiting in the wings is Fernando Mendoza. Now, Mendoza is a guy that, I've said this time and again. I don't advocate carrying 2 quarterbacks on your roster. I feel like it's just a waste of space. That being said, if you're hell-bent on carrying a second quarterback and you have an established QB1 that you're going to start every week, nothing wrong with taking a flyer on Mendoza. Based off of what happens in the preseason, if they go into week 1 with Cousins as the starter, this guy will be, I would imagine he'd still be getting drafted or potentially goes undrafted. You might be able to get him for free. I mean, even a late round draft pick is free, like last round pick. I have no problems if you want to use a pick on Mendoza, see what happens for the first 2-3 weeks. This guy could get thrown into the fire. He could completely collapse, or he could actually be the second coming. We just don't know. So with that kind of upside, with the number 1 overall pick, coming off a Heisman season, coming off an undefeated national championship season, there are worse ways to use a late round pick in your fantasy draft. Lastly, we have the San Diego LA Chargers. I'll never get over that. They'll still always be the San Diego Chargers to me. They'll never be the LA Chargers anyway. Jim Harbaugh returns, I think, for his third season. Interestingly, he brought in Mike McDaniel, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, to be his OC. And that, I feel like, kind of raises the fantasy profile for the Chargers. That being said, this is, again, another team that's more of a sum of its parts. There's no standalone, bona fide superstars at any position on this team. If anything, they have a great depth. And so, their fantasy profiles are going to be highly dependent, I think, on game variance. So, the most highly drafted player off of this offense is this Omariah Hampton at running back. He's going for a late second round pick. Today, I just read that, McDaniel came out and said he's going to give work to Hampton. He's going to give work to this Keaton Mitchell, formerly of the Ravens, who is kind of a smaller, quick scat back type guy. And when McDaniel says he wants to get all of his guys involved, I believe him. Now, a lot of people, I feel like, were overdrafting this Hampton. He was injured for a large part of last year, and they thought that he was going to step into 300 carries. I don't think it's going to happen, to be honest with you. Now, that being said, I feel like he will be the preferred goal line back. San Diego, LA should score, a fair amount of points this year. But for a late second round pick, if you can get Derrick Henry instead, if you can get Chase Brown instead, if you could get Achane instead, I would rather get those guys than I would get Hampton. Of course, I could be proven wrong, but more likely if he's sitting there in the third round or even the fourth round, I would take him then, but I'm not taking him in the second round. The wide receiver position group is highlighted by this Lad McConkey, who I think is going into his third season. He is coming off the board in about the third round. Very trendy pick this year. Had a decent season last year. Definitely came on as the season, progressed. Now, is it tough for me to sit here and say, is this guy going to catch 100 balls this year? Potentially. So let's say, if I had to do a projection for this McConkey, especially, with the passing volume, in the McDaniel offense, obviously they do like to throw the ball. They do like to run the ball. It's kind of balanced, but with Justin Herbert, at the controls, he's definitely going to get his fair share of looks. Let's say 85 catches, 1,200 yards. I don't think the touchdowns are going to be there, though. I really don't. I think four or five touchdowns. I don't see... This guy doesn't have the prototypical size that when you're next to the red zone, if you're going to throw the back shoulder fade, where you want a guy who's 6'4", 6'5", a Mike Evans, a DK Metcalf, somebody who's huge and can body and can go up and double coverage and go get a ball. This isn't the guy. This is more, I feel like, more of a possession guy, a move the chains guy, and not a red zone dominator. In that regard, is he worth the third round price tag? I don't think so. I'll take him round 4, round 5. I don't think I would take him in the third round. I'd be more comfortable just going Josh Allen, at that point and just saying, I got that position locked up. Running across from him is this Quentin Johnston, who's going into, I believe, year 4. He came on pretty decent last year, scored his fair share of touchdowns. This guy's more of the touchdown guy in the Chargers offense, but nothing sexy there. What his game is about is it's just spike weeks. So he'll do nothing, and then he'll have a 2-touchdown game. And then you'll put him in the lineup the next week, he'll have 3 catches. Then you'll give up on him, and the next week he'll have another 2 touchdowns. I hate playing fantasy whack-a-mole with these guys. I have been guilty in the past of ignoring specific teams, specific situations, specific players, just because I just don't feel like they're sexy enough. There's just not enough upside there. And then quietly they put together these great seasons. Johnston could be a guy that's like that, but I just don't see it. You're probably looking at, 7th, 8th round pick for this guy or later. No issue if you want to have him as your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, but expect that, unless you're playing him every week, you're never going to know when that spike production is going to occur. Throwing the ball is Justin Herbert. Herbert over the years is, he's one of these guys, great fantasy quarterback, not as great of a real life quarterback, hasn't really won the big game ever. Everybody expects him to at some point. He's going to throw, prototypical size, prototypical arm. Projection for him, let's say in the McDaniel offense, maybe just a shade below 4,000 yards, 28 to 30 touchdowns. Hopeful, and he's a tough guy. He does play through injury. So, well, that concludes the divisional previews. Going forward, we're just going to have some individual digest, just observations from training camp, the vibes around certain players. We're about to kick off into the preseason here, so that obviously will give us some more information, some more benchmarks to go off of as far as trying to figure out our rankings and everything like that. Some of you have already started drafting, and that's great. I usually wait until after the last preseason game because I don't want to risk somebody getting injured and then they're out for the whole year, and not just for myself but for anybody else in the league. So more to come. I appreciate all the people that are watching today, and I'll talk to you guys soon.